On this month's episode of Out of the Office, we talk about the McAfee Knob Shuttle and the new pedestrian bridge that crosses over 311. Later in the episode, Alex North joins us as we recap GoFest and talk about the events happening in the county this month. Welcome to Out of the Office. I'm your host, M. Portner, bringing you ideas for your next Out of the Office adventure. On this month, we're talking about the work that Roanoke County Planning and Transportation teams have been doing around McAfee's Knob, including the long-awaited bridge and the shuttle that's been running for a couple years now. I'm joined by Cronise and Paula Benke. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Megan and Paula, can you introduce yourselves and tell the listeners a little bit more about what you do for the county?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I'm Megan Cronise. I'm the Assistant Director of Planning for Roanoke County, and I handle the transportation program for the county. So because our roads are not our own, they're VDOT's, we work with VDOT on a daily basis on a variety of tasks. We also work on finding grant funding to do a lot of great things in Roanoke County.
Great. And Paula?
I'm Paula Benke, Transit Planner. I oversee the operations of the McAfee Knob Trailhead Shuttle.
Exciting. So why don't we start with the shuttle? What prompted the shuttle to come into existence?
Well, I think we'd have to look a little bit back into 2020 when COVID hit, and obviously there were a lot of things going to get people outdoors. So we saw a spike in people wanting to get outdoors and enjoy the beautiful area that we have here. And so with that, there became a lot of challenges with parking at the McAfee Knob Trailhead. During that time, there were a lot of folks that were seeing their cars get towed or ticketed. And so Megan had worked with a group prior to me that had provided a transit feasibility study. And that's kind of where the shuttle was born from. And from there, we did some modifications.
It's nice to hear something positive come out of COVID with a lot of negatives surrounding it.
Very much so.
Yeah. So obviously public transportation is no small feat. So what was the biggest hurdle in getting the shuttle up and running? That you're willing to say on podcast.
So with the Park Service and the U.S. Department of Transportation creating the transit feasibility study, which was part of the visitor use management plan that the National Park Service was working on, and which also played into funding obtained for the bridge in 2017, that really laid the foundation for us to start asking questions about funding for the shuttle. So we worked with the Department of Rail and Public Transportation and said, hey, we've got this really great study. It shows how we could potentially provide service up to the McAfee Knob Trailhead parking lot. Is this something that we could request funding for? And they said, well, yes, you can. So we're really great at writing grant applications in our department. So submitting that application, we were very pleased to receive the first round of demonstration grant funding, which then initiated service in September 2022. So I think the hardest part was figuring out how to make that actually happen. And that's when Paula joined us. And with experience running our Cortran program that's been in existence since 1985, she was willing to take on the challenge of helping me figure out how do we get a shuttle to work and find a provider and figure out a way to make this happen. With the data that we had available from the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission about hikes. So we knew when the foot traffic was, so we could figure out what days of the week we needed to focus on and what hours of the day we needed to focus on to put that plan into action to have a shuttle start operating Labor Day weekend of 2022.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And kind of on the note of hikes and operating hours, you did add more on-demand stops in Salem and stop at Dragon's Tooth this year. So why were those picked, and what's the reception to those new stops? How has that been?
I think overall it's been a very pleasant experience. And I think looking at those expansions, we had to come up with a game plan prior to the parking lot being closed at McAfee for 2024 when the bridge was going to start to be constructed. So I think looking at some of our localities for those parking spaces that we were going to need for folks to be able to go and park a vehicle and grab the shuttle and get to their hike. We also added the Orange Market off of Route 311 this year. But I think one of the things that when Megan and I first started crafting what the shuttle was going to look like, we thought a lot about the day hikers and, getting those folks, where they're going to park. But also the thing that we did not consider were some of our section and through hikers. And so that was one of the reasons why we looked at our locality in Salem, because there were a lot of folks needing to get off the trail to replenish their resources. So it kind of was hand in hand. I think looking at Dragon's Tooth, it's another part of the Virginia Triple Crown, and it's close in proximity to McAfee, so it made sense.
Yeah, it really is like just up the road, so adding it on doesn't add too much time to the shuttle route at all.
Not at all.
Great.
Well, that was part of the transit feasibility study as well, was also serving Dragon's Tooth, and then figuring out a way to also get Tinker Cliffs at some point.
Ooh, that's exciting, potentially.
Yes.
Do we have a year on the horizon for Tinker Cliffs, or is that still just a stretch goal?
Check back.
Yeah.
We're always planning, and I think we've already started looking, obviously, for what the next version of the shuttle will look like, and incorporating what are the needs of the people who are wanting to use the shuttle, as well as what are we trying to accomplish as a region.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you have any idea of how many customers the shuttle has served over the years, or any other fun numbers related to the shuttle?
Well, like she said, we launched in fall of 2022, and year to date, we've had just about over 7,500 reservations.
Ooh.
And obviously, we've seen a big uptick in the month of October because it's peak leaf season.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen anything on any social media or in the news recently, but we've had a couple weddings at McAfee, not necessarily taking the shuttle, but as again, you'll hear time and time again, it's the most photographed part on the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
So.
I think particularly with the parking lot being closed all of this year, the shuttle ridership has been through the roof, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's really been a great service to help offset all of those folks who still want to hike, even when there's not an easy place to park.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, the shuttle, we're at the end of October now, but it runs through November.
Yes.
And it'll be returning next March, right?
Yes. March through November.
Great. It's good that it's done so well and is sticking around. But onto the bridge, since the shuttle and the bridge this year have kind of gone hand in hand. So there are a lot of agencies involved in the project. You've already mentioned, obviously, the county and VDOT, and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. So how did the collaboration coordination work between all of those agencies to get that project off the ground?
Well, VDOT actually applied for funding for the bridge in 2017. So that was actually before I was really involved in transportation as deeply as I am now. But they did involve a wide range of stakeholders. As you mentioned, the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, the Roanoke Appalachian Trail Club, Roanoke County provided a letter of support. The National Park Service was part of the project. And specifically that funding was Highway Safety Improvement Program funding to help hikers get across Route 311, which is a 55-mile-an-hour zone.
Yeah.
Without having to sprint across the road in between traffic. So we're thrilled that bridge is coming into being. There's been a very large stakeholder committee that's been meeting since about 2017, led by Brett Randolph with the Virginia Department of Transportation, to work out where exactly is it going to go? What is it going to look like? How's it going to function? Who's going to maintain it?
Yeah.
The land underneath it. Are there transfers that need to happen? So it's been a fantastic, multifaceted group of folks who've worked very hard to make sure that the bridge is going to be what it needs to be and will meet National Park Service standards, because it will be a National Park Service structure when it's complete.
Okay. Now, the area around McAfee's Knob, as you mentioned, has been dangerous for a really long time. So what was it about late 2023 that it all fell into place for the bridge construction to start?
Well, the funding was obtained again in 2017. So it had been on the radar for a long time. There have been previous applications to try to do something there. Roanoke County did work with VDOT, I believe, in 2014 to put up flashing hiker signs to make the traveling public aware that there are going to be people crossing the road. There will be hikers here. So we've kind of had a number of iterative strategies to try to make things safer for hikers. But the bridge having the funding for the bridge has been huge. And so we're thrilled that it's been under construction and will be open by the end of this year.
Yeah. From an outsider, the progress on the bridge looks like it's gone really smoothly. I know the bridge construction started before I worked for the county. And, when I saw that it was going to close for a year, I was like, I don't think they're going to be done in a year. But it really looks like the progress has gone around really smoothly. Do you know of any delays or unexpected difficulties they had since the project started?
I think it's been going fairly smoothly. There's just finishing details now, and we anticipate that it will be open hopefully in December.
So obviously, as we've mentioned, parking has been an issue there for a long time. What else has been identified to help for McAfee Knob parking for people who don't necessarily want to take the shuttle?
So we did work with VDOT with Old Catawba Road, which is where overflow parking has traditionally been located. And they did sign the roadway with signs indicating you can basically park on one side of the street or the other, but not both. When you park on both sides of the street, there's typically not enough room for traffic to get through, particularly emergency response vehicles. So that has been the challenge is working with VDOT, figuring out where's their space, what makes the most sense to sign the road adequately down the switchbacks to allow for that extra capacity while the parking lot is closed for folks who want to hike during the week when we don't have the shuttle available, or if they don't want to ride the shuttle. And so that's worked out fairly well for the most part. But there's always folks who don't follow any signs or maps or guidance or information that we provide. And we've been increasing our outreach since October of 2020 when we had a lot of parking challenges at peak leaf season. We've done a lot of different things to try to provide additional parking. The Catawba Greenway is one location with 25 spaces, so you can take the Catawba Greenway to the Appalachian Trail and still get to McAfee. So there's a lot of different ways that we've tried to help accommodate them, but sometimes
people just do what people do, right?
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, I know we mentioned the Catawba Greenway when we were talking a couple weeks ago about this. And that's actually, in my genius planning, decided to hike McAfee's like the week after it closed last year, after the parking lot closed. And that's one of the things that I saw online that was an option was parking at the Catawba Sustainability Center and then doing the Catawba Greenway to connect to the AT. And it adds a mile, but it's a very beautiful mile that it adds. And you don't have to cross 311 on that route either, which is another great...
A little bit safer.
Yeah, exactly. So what other projects are on the horizon for the McAfee's Knob area?
So we have been working for some time to propose improvements to the parking lot. So the parking lot is owned by the National Park Service. And right now it's a gravel surface. So when it is open, folks make their own parking spaces. It's kind of a free-for-all. Because it's not striped, you have some cars that park far away from each other and some who park too close. So we did propose to the National Park Service expansion of the parking lot using adjacent property to provide better circulation, paved parking spaces, striped parking spaces, some of the other things from the Visitor Use Management Plan that was adopted this year that folks would really like to see there are restrooms. We'd also like to have a shuttle stop so the shuttle isn't parking on the shoulder of Route 311. There's also potential trailhead signage that is branded because right now there's nothing that really says this is a National Park Service facility. And all of this to connect up with the new ramp that goes up to the bridge. So to have a cohesive plan and good circulation for that parking lot. So we did work with Senator Kane and his staff earlier this year to submit a congressionally directed spending request for funding through the federal budget to hopefully make these improvements a reality. And that's something that when the federal budget is signed, we hope, fingers crossed, that funding will stay in and be included so that there will be funding available for the Park Service to make those really needed improvements, to expand that parking lot, provide restrooms, and all those things that folks typically get at a National Park Service location when they go on a hike.
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear that there are so many, like, it's a lot of little things that add up to a bigger thing because the county's been promoting the McAfee Knob Trail for a while now as like the thing to do in Roanoke County. So, you know, over the years, it's just grown and grown in popularity. So to be able to update it in all of these ways to make it safer, to make it more accessible, to make it, you know, easier to access all around is really encouraging to hear, and that you're working so hard on it, and that the funding's coming from a bunch of different directions is a very it shows how much that your department and VDOT and the National Park Service is really putting into this area of the county.
Well, it's a huge collaboration, and I think we had over 20 letters of support for that parking lot expansion application that we submitted from all over. Not only our local localities and agencies here, but also Appalachian Trail groups up and down the East Coast are really supportive of improving the most photographed location on the Appalachian Trail and the parking lot that accesses it. We have over 50,000 visitors a year, and that has really jumped in the last 10 to 12 years with more publicity and social media and movies. And so it's a very visible spot. It's wonderful. It's loved.
And we are lucky, though, to have all of those different partnerships, too. It's a very collaborative group that, it's something that I think has made a lot of this worthwhile, and that you see the needle move to where a project will eventually come to completion. No different than, like Megan said, when 2017 they started, VDOT started with funding, talking about the pedestrian bridge, and here we are now that hopefully by the end of the year it's going to be completed. So it just takes some time too.
Yeah, definitely. And it's I think people like to joke about the pace that the government works at, but because there are so many different factors and so many different funding routes and a lot that goes into a project of this scale, it's like we're blessed to even have this now at all. And it's gonna serve the area for decades to come. It's hopefully gonna be there for a very long time, and all of this work is gonna be people are gonna be able to enjoy it for a very long time.
That's the plan.
Yeah. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast since I've taken over, but we do have a fun game now that we end the podcast with, where I elicit from you a fun out-of-the-office activity to do in the county that I've never done before. So I'm a very avid hiker and outdoors person, and I love to get out and about. So if you have a recommendation for something in Roanoke County or the Southwest Virginia area for me to do.
Well, you've obviously hiked McAfee.
I have.
And Dragon's Tooth.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Have you done the Hinchy Trail yet, which is close by?
The which trail?
The Hinchy Trail.
I have not done that.
So that is a connection from Timberview Road and Dutch Oven Road
near the
up
roundabout
to
on 311.
Okay.
And it connects up with the trails at Carvin's Cove.
Ooh.
So it's a relatively new county park. It opened in 2021.
Not sure.
That's
It has a lot of incline.
Question.
Be prepared.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is an uphill.
Yes.
But it's a wonderful park and trail that connects with Carvin's Cove.
Okay, well, challenge accepted. I will check that out before our next podcast recording, and thank you for the recommendation.
Pressure.
Yeah. No, I love this as an opportunity to find out things that I may have never heard about in the area, because I've never heard about that park, and obviously it's I've passed that area, but I've been to Carvin's Cove, but I haven't been there. So it's a good way to hear about new things to do in the county for me. But thank you both for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Next up, Alex North joins me from Parks, Rec, and Tourism as we recap GoFest and look forward to the holiday events happening in the county. Hey, Alex.
Hey, Em. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
So we wrapped up GoFest a couple weeks ago. It was the second year out at Explorer Park. How'd it go?
It went great. The Adventure Outpost saw a little over 3,000 folks out at Explorer Park over the weekend of GoFest, and it was a really perfect weather, which was fantastic. But all the different offerings and different ways to get to Explorer Park actually worked out really well, and we had a great time with our friends at GoFest.
Yeah, I know. I had gone to GoFest to fulfill my challenge from last month, and I saw the shuttle running back and forth, and it seemed like a good number of people were actually using the shuttle.
Yeah, I was up there on Saturday from about 11 to 2-ish with the family and some friends, and, it was great. I live in Vinton, so we were able to take the Parkway, but every time that shuttle was dropping off and picking up, it was full to the max. So that was great to see, and, providing that alternate transportation for folks to really make a full day of it. I know a few people who I ran into, parked downtown, took the shuttle, or vice versa from Explorer Park.
Yeah, and I know it was packed downtown as far as cars go, so it was good to have a little less traffic on the streets heading back and forth between them.
Yeah, but I mean, all of our parking lots were packed that weekend. I came in off the Parkway, and right away, the first thing you saw was the Ultimate Air Dogs pool coming there off the left of the Parkway entrance into the park. Then to the right, we had Noke Van Company and a bunch of different vendors in there. And then that parking lot was full the whole weekend. And then we also had Twin Creeks Brew Pub was packed. They offered breakfast, lunch, and dinner, had some live music.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the park was packed all weekend, and it was great to see everyone out there having a great time with the great weather. As I mentioned earlier, we got really lucky with that. And Treetop had a great weekend, and, you know, the park was truly packed and going all weekend long.
Yeah, hopefully next year it'll be just as packed, if not more.
Indeed. And, you know, it's one of those things to where this is like the first time we'd actually hosted the Adventure Outpost portion. And I'll be honest, when I first learned about it, I was like, man, this is awesome. And it was really cool to see all those folks out there enjoying all the different outdoor recreation opportunities. And, you know, the air dogs, I'd never seen it in person. That was pretty cool to see. All those dogs, you know, excited, chasing the decoys and jumping in the water. Everyone loved that.
Yeah, that's always really fun to see, especially because I have a dog that absolutely could not do that. So
Same here.
Being able to see very athletic dogs having fun, getting up in the air, it's a really fun show to see. But GoFest is over now, and we're entering the colder months in November and December. What are some events that are going on in park, recs, and tourism that we should check out this month?
Yeah, so, you know, as we're winding down the year, you know, people may think, well, you don't have a whole lot going on. Event-wise, quantity, we don't have as much of community events as we did in October, but, you know, the quality's up there because we have this thing called Illuminights, which you may learn on another podcast.
Tease for next month.
Yeah, a little tease, but, you know, Illuminights tickets do go on sale on November 1st. So if you're listening on the release date, or if you're listening in general in the next few weeks or so, tickets are on sale, so folks can go on to explorepark.org/Illuminights to purchase those. But you kind of going back to early November, the first weekend in November, we have the Brambleton Center Craft Show, which enters its 31st year.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So we'll have, you know, 15 to 20 vendors, some local artisans, you know, demonstrating what they have, but also having all their crafts and wares for sale. I know this weekend coming up for that is huge around the valley for a lot of craft shows. So, you know, if you're making your rounds, stop by the Brambleton Center, because not only will we have the vendors, but Kind Brew Coffee Company will be there as well, offering up some sweet treats and some coffee from 8 to 2.
Oh, good.
Yep. And then we also have coming up in November is, of course, Illuminights starting, but then we also have some wrapping up the sports marketing season from a race perspective. We have the ODAC Cross Country Championships coming up on the 2nd, and then we wrap it up with the VHSL Regional Cross Country Meet hosted. Both of those are out at Green Hill Park. So, you know, it's a really busy season for cross country from the collegiate level, but also the high school level out at Green Hill.
Yeah, as a Roanoke College alum, I need to support my ODAC teams, so that'll be fun. It's good that we have all of those resources that we can actually host those here in the county. Yeah,
it's pretty cool because, you know, last year in 2023, we hosted all 3 divisions of the NCAA for cross country, with the Big South in Division 1, CIAA in Division 2, and then Division 3, of course, the ODAC. This year, we're running it back literally and figuratively with Division 2. CIAA finished up last week. They had a great race and some beautiful weather, and then we're hoping for the same for the ODAC this weekend.
Great. And it's the last Food Truck Thursday next week, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the last Food Truck Thursday of the fall slate is coming up at Green Hill Park on November 7th. So, you know, come out, enjoy some great weather, fingers crossed, and some great food for some local food vendors.
Great. Well, it sounds like we have a lot of fun things to check out this month.
For sure. And, you know, of course, I'll mention it again, Illuminights is coming up. That's one of our favorite traditions, you know, in the county. But have you been to Illuminights before?
I have not.
Okay. Well, you know, I don't know if you want to save it for later, but that's something I can challenge you for our late October, November podcast. Yeah. Before we talk about Illuminights in the next one, you definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, I think that'll already locked in for our November challenge is doing a
That's perfect. Checking off the boxes one at a time for sure.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on Out of the Office. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend and join us next month as we plan your next Out of the Office adventure. Happy exploring!